I'm Sterling Perrin with Omdia, and I'm here at OFC 2026, actually a very high energy OFC this year, a lot going on, and I'm happy to be with Cisco and talking with Lorenzo Ghioni in the system side of the business.
Yep.
Hey, Lorenzo.
Thanks, Sterling.
Good to talk to you again.
Yep.
So a lot going on at the show, a lot going on with Cisco. Maybe start with multi-rail line systems, kind of a new concept Cisco's announced. A product there.
Yeah,
can you just tell a quick, what is it? It's new, and then what is the significance of a multi-rail line system for AI infrastructure?
Yeah, no, I think the main significance of the new product is really overcoming the limitation of the capacity. Like scale across requires unprecedented capacity, and what the industry has realized is that the weak part of the chain is the line amplifier. You don't have enough power, enough space to support the overall capacity that is required. So we're introducing the Cisco line system 3000, which is meant to overcome these limitations. And the idea is integrate 4 different rails amplification in one single line card rather than having a line card that amplify one single rail, and do that in such a way that you can take the density to 128 rails per rack. And because pretty much the maximum fiber capacity is in the range of 90 to 100 terabit, the best you can do to support petabit of capacity is to go with multiple fiber rail in parallel. So that's what we're doing with the Cisco Open Transport System 3000.
That is amazingly dense, and something kind of a few years back, you would think kind of unheard of that.
Yes.
So 128 fiber pairs, a rail fiber pair,
right,
in a
one rack. Exactly.
And this is obviously driven by hyperscaler needs.
Correct. Yeah. It's definitely driven by the hyperscaler needs, but I would say that for the longest time, nobody was really paying attention to what's happening in the line amplifier, right? If you think about capacity evolution and everything else, everybody was talking about how do we make bigger transponder, longer distances and so forth, up until when we realized that, again, power and space in the line amplifier side is a constraint that we need to overcome. And so that's where we started driving new innovation into the line amplifier with uncooled pump lasers, with CNL band integrated component. Right. So that's the first time where we see, let's say, this amount of innovation. And there is also something that is, let me say, a bit more trivial, but is equally important, like the relevance of how do you cool down this component? How do you better operate the fan tray to consume less power? How do you make sure that the controller and the racks are more efficient? And that's, again, the reason why we decided to build a complete new system from the ground up to be able to optimize each and every one of the pieces of the pie.
Sure. In addition to this, you also announced some new transponder, and on the pluggable side.
Correct.
So maybe talk about what's the significance of
Absolutely.
These.
So we just introduced the next generation of the pluggable-based transponder line card inside of the NCS 1014. As you probably know, we have had for quite some time the version that is based on 400G ZR+, 16 port of 400G in half of a rack unit. We've taken it to double with having a full width, 1 rack unit line card that is able to support 12.8 terabits. So is taking advantage of 32 800G QDD ports, which allows us to have effectively 16 800G transponder per rack unit, a full band worth of capacity into 2 rack unit inside of one single NCS 1014 chassis. So doubling effectively the density and cutting the power consumption by 30+%, which is very significant. We also basically announcing the 100G QSFP28 100G ZR.
Okay.
That's another one that can be used directly into router and switches, as well as into the pluggable-based transponder line card.
Right.
So effectively making sure that in all of the different situations, routed optical networking or transponder-based, we can go from the edge all the way to the long haul, ultra long haul, and even submarine, all based on pluggable, coherent pluggable interface.
Right, so scaling up and down.
Scaling up and down, east and west, any direction pretty much.
Yeah, yes. So one of the things that's coming up at this show and in the industry in general, you know, there's so much of the innovation is being driven by the hyperscalers. We just talked about the multi-rail and a lot of the 800 gig coherent and, you know, moving to even 1.6T and even above. You know, I'm always thinking back to the telecom service providers, telcos or communication service providers. Do you see, does any of that help them? In other words, all these things that are coming out, are there benefits that they would receive from any number? Yeah, and
I definitely think so. Yes, like
for instance,
anything that we're doing to improve on the density and allow better scalability, I think is a direct benefit to the overall industry. But even going back to the multi-rail line system, think about the possibility to integrate more component to enable this density will also allow us to take the same component and improve on the density and the power consumption on single rail. So hyperscaler need multi-rail today. It'll probably take some years for service provider to get to the same density and capacity, but everybody could use better power, better density on single rail as well. So that's a, you know, very important benefit that we can share across the overall industry.
Right, so you'll see those moving right into your service
provider. And all of the pluggables, for that matter, have been benefiting everybody, right?
100%.
Is 400 GZR, like think about what that did to the overall market. I would say that also all of the interoperability that the hyperscaler have forced the industry to support is beneficial for everybody. We participating into the OIF, you probably have seen us in the OIF booth, and it's impressive to see that there is full interoperability at the DWDM layer, like on the DWDM interface. There is interoperability between the pluggable and the host. And for the first time, we're also doing interoperability from the management or the controller perspective, allowing all of these mix and match between host, pluggable, and provisioning to happen across the board. So that's certainly something that will benefit the whole industry.
Absolutely. Yeah, so the last thing I wanted to ask you about, routed optical networks, IP over DWDM historically. It's been a topic for a long time. We got an update from you and from Cisco last year. Can you just kind of bring us up to date with where things are today and what kind of traction you're seeing?
I mean, it's continuing to get a lot of traction. We announced that we are over 450 customers that are using and deploying the technology. You probably have seen the announcement that the Acacia team did about the number of coherent pluggable port 400G, 800G that we're basically selling to the market, like over 750,000 400G equivalent port, which is impressive, right? And there's no doubt the hyperscaler are driving a lot of the volume, but
there's not 450 hyperscalers.
There's no 450 hyperscaler, absolutely, but there is a lot of customer across the segment, across theaters that are really taking advantage of these coherent pluggable interfaces and deploying routed optical networking. So much so that we also introduced these, I mentioned it earlier before, 100 GZR QSFP 280 dBm, again, allows to use RON even into the access and aggregation portion of the network. So even there, 800G in the access aggregation, 400G everywhere with Bright and ULH, 800G for the ones that want to have more capacity. So overall, you basically can see how coherent pluggable have changed the market, and routed optical networking is one way to consume them. Coherent pluggable based transponder is allowing us to have interoperability and allow customers to pick and choose which way they want to use them. So that's important.
Yeah, so busy year, a lot going on. We wish you all the best. Great catching up with you.
Thanks, Sterling.